It is November 1941, 40 degrees below zero, and you are lying face down in a frozen trench outside Moscow. Your eyelashes are fused together with frost. Your jaw clicks rhythmically because you've been grinding your teeth for 3 days straight just to keep the blood moving in your skull. You are nobody, a conscript, a name on a rusted tin tag. They pulled you out of a tractor factory, handed you a heavy coat, and shoved a standard-issue Mosin Nagant rifle into your numb hands. You grip the frozen wood of the stock. It feels like a block of dry ice. You try to align the iron sights, but your fingers are so stiff they feel like wooden pegs. Across the shattered tree line, gray figures move through the snow. They are methodically advancing, unbothered by the frozen hellscape. The conscripts around you are panicking. They are firing blindly, wasting ammunition, screaming as the return fire cracks the air and splinters the frozen birch trees. But you don't panic. You don't fire blindly. You just watch. You notice the rhythm of their movement. You see a gray silhouette dart behind a burned-out transport truck. You don't aim at the truck. You aim at the empty space a meter to the right of the truck. You calculate the distance, roughly 200 paces. You factor in the heavy drag of the snow on a man's boots. You breathe in the razor-sharp air. You let it out, watching your breath form a thick white cloud. At the absolute bottom of your exhale, when your lungs are empty and your heartbeat slows, the gray silhouette steps out from behind the truck, directly into your iron sights. You squeeze the cold steel of the trigger. The piece bucks violently against your bruised collarbone. The smell of burning propellant and sulfur floods your sinuses, instantly clearing the stench of unwashed bodies and fear. 200 meters away, the silhouette folds neatly into the snow. Checked out early. You don't cheer. You don't feel a rush of patriotic glory. You simply rack the heavy bolt, ejecting a smoking brass casing into the snow. You chamber another round. You wait for the next gray shape. By the end of the week, the trench is mostly empty. The men who panicked are gone. But you are still here, and your tally is sitting at 14. The political officer doesn't smile when he pulls you out of the line. He just stares at you, evaluating the absolute void behind your eyes, and points toward a canvas tent behind the main lines. You walk inside. The smell of burning birchwood and heavy cosmoline grease hits you like a physical wall. A hardened veteran with a scarred cheek sits at a wooden table. He slides a long canvas-wrapped package across the rough grain of the wood. You unwrap it. It is still a Mosin Nagant 1891-30, but the bolt handle is bent completely downward, and mounted directly over the receiver is a short, tubular optic, a 3.5 power PU scope. You aren't a conscript anymore. You are a frontline marksman. The competence porn begins immediately. They don't teach you how to fight. They teach you how to solve lethal equations. You sit in freezing classrooms made of shattered brick, memorizing ballistic charts until your eyes bleed. You learn that your hardware fires a heavy 147-grain steel core projectile at 860 meters per second. But gravity doesn't care about muzzle velocity. Gravity demands its tax. You look through the thick, yellowish glass of the optic. You memorize the reticle, a thick vertical post flanked by 2 horizontal bars. You learn the mathematics of human anatomy. A standard infantryman is 1.7 meters tall. If that man's height perfectly fills the gap between the horizontal posts in your scope, he is exactly 400 meters away. You reach up, your fingers rolling over the heavy knurled elevation turret on top of the scope. 3 clicks up. The math is absolute. But gravity is only half the equation. The wind is the ghost that ruins the math. You learn to read the bend of the grass, the drift of smoke from a burning tank, the heat mirage rising off the frozen tundra. A 10 km/h crosswind will push your steel 20 centimeters off target at 500 meters. That is the difference between removing a high-ranking officer from the board and merely chipping the brick wall behind his head. You become a savant of micro-adjustments. You wrap the long barrel of your piece in dirty, ripped rags to break up its distinct straight silhouette. You coat the wood in cheap white paint mixed with ashes to dull the shine. You learn to walk by rolling your weight from the outside edge of your boot to the inside, crushing the snow silently instead of snapping the ice. By December of 1942, you are swallowed by the shattered skeletal remains of Stalingrad. You are a ghost haunting a graveyard of factories. You slither on your stomach over crushed red brick, broken glass, and twisted rebar. You crawl into the third-floor ventilation shaft of a collapsed tractor plant. It is your perch. The temperature is hovering at -35. And now, the true horror of your profession begins. The waiting. You lie perfectly still for 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours. Your muscles scream. Lactic acid builds up in your calves, threatening to trigger violent cramps. You cannot massage them. You cannot stretch. A single unnatural movement, a single shadow shifting in a dark window will draw the attention of the enemy marksman hunting you. You are playing a high-stakes chess match where the penalty for a single mistake is immediate liquidation. Your bladder aches. You release it, letting the warm urine soak into your own woolen trousers. It provides 2 minutes of agonizing warmth before it freezes solid against your skin. You don't care. Comfort is a distraction. Your tally is at 47. You look through the yellowish glass, scanning the ruins across the Volga River. You aren't looking for men anymore. You are looking for anomalies. A perfectly straight line in a pile of jagged rubble. A shadow that seems too deep. A puff of condensation that doesn't match the rhythm of the wind.
There. Third floor of the rusted water plant. A flash of light. A match striking. Someone is breaking the cardinal rule of the ruins. They are smoking. You slide the butt of the rifle tight into your shoulder pocket. The cold wood presses against your cheek. You don't see a human being across the street. You don't see a father, a son, or a mechanic from Bavaria. You see a variable. You see an anatomical grid. You watch the tiny orange cherry of the cigarette glow as the target inhales. That cherry is roughly mouth level. You drop your crosshairs 10 centimeters below the glowing ember to find the center of the throat. The wind is blowing left to right, carrying heavy snowflakes. You hold the vertical post a hair to the left of the throat. You start the breathing cycle. Inhale deeply. Exhale slowly. Your heart beats in your ears. Thump, thump, thump. The crosshairs bounce microscopically with every pulse. You time the squeeze between the heartbeats. At the bottom of the breath, you apply 3 pounds of pressure to the curved steel trigger. The sear breaks cleanly. The heavy piece slams into your shoulder. Through the optic, you see the orange cherry violently whip backward and vanish. The shape collapses behind the brickwork. Target neutralized. Tally, 48. You pull back from the window. You don't feel remorse. You don't feel triumph. You just feel the cold wind whistling through the rusted rebar. But as your tally climbs, 60, 80, 100, the isolation sets in. You return to the underground bunkers where the regular infantry huddles around tin stoves. They are laughing, crying, sharing stale bread, trading photos of girls back in Omsk or Kiev. But when you step into the bunker, the laughter stops. The men look at you differently. They look at you with a mixture of profound awe and deep, instinctual disgust. To them, you are a wraith. You bring the artillery down. You attract enemy fire. But worse, they look into your eyes and see the absolute absence of humanity. You sit in the corner of the bunker, ignoring the warmth of the stove. You take a rag soaked in harsh alkaline solvent and meticulously scrub the carbon from your bolt carrier. You smell the sharp metallic tang of the solvent, blocking out the smell of the unwashed men around you. A young replacement, barely 18, offers you half a cigarette. His hands are shaking. You don't take it. You don't even look at him. You know the statistics. He'll be flatlined by shrapnel before noon tomorrow. Getting attached to the dead is inefficient. You finish cleaning your optic, rack the bolt to ensure it slides like glass, and close your eyes. You are entirely alone in a sea of millions. By the winter of 1944, your tally crosses 250. You are no longer a soldier. You are a state asset. They pull you off the frozen front lines. You are put on a train and sent to a rear echelon headquarters in a pristine, undamaged city. The transition is jarring, almost nauseating. You are taken to a warm room with high ceilings, electric lights, and heavy velvet curtains. They strip away your lice-ridden, blood-stained greatcoat and dress you in a brand new, perfectly tailored officer's tunic. They pin the gold star of the hero of the Soviet Union to your chest. The Order of Lenin sits heavy right below it. The room is filled with journalists, political officers, and state photographers. Flashbulbs explode around you, filling the air with the sharp smell of magnesium powder. A smiling, well-fed journalist from Pravda sits across from you. He holds a notepad, his hands clean and soft. "Comrade," the journalist says, his voice dripping with theatrical patriotism, "tell the people, what do you feel when you pull the trigger and drop an invader?" He expects poetry. He expects righteous fury. You stare at him. You look at the soft skin of his neck. Your brain, permanently rewired by years in the ruins, instantly calculates the ballistics. The distance across the desk is 1.5 meters, no wind, point-blank holdover. If you drove around through that soft tissue, the hydrostatic shock would sever the brainstem before he even heard the noise. You blink. The journalist is waiting. "I feel the joy of the motherland," you say, reciting the exact line the political officer drilled into your head an hour ago. The journalist smiles brilliantly and scribbles in his notepad. The flashbulbs explode again. You look at the camera, you smile, but the lens captures the truth. The eyes staring back from the photograph, which will be plastered on 10,000 recruitment posters from Vladivostok to Leningrad, are completely, utterly dead. You are a hollow shell. The propaganda machine has built a marble statue out of you, but inside there is nothing left but windage calculations, the smell of cordite, and the heavy thud of the recoil. You have mastered the absolute extreme of your profession, and the price was every shred of your humanity. The war ends. It is 1948. You are walking down a bustling street in Moscow. The sun is shining, the rubble has been cleared. Women in summer dresses walk arm in arm. Children chase stray dogs through the cobblestone squares. But you are not here, not really. You stand at the edge of the square, a loaf of fresh bread under your arm. A tram screeches around a corner, the metal wheels sparking on the rails. A flock of pigeons violently scatters into the air. Your eyes track the movement instantly. Your right hand involuntarily twitches, reaching for a bolt handle that isn't there. Your jaw clicks. You look at the beautiful plaza in front of you, but you cannot see the architecture. Your mind aggressively dissects the geometry of the space. You identify the highest window on the bank building, the perfect overwatch position. You divide the pedestrian walkways into primary and secondary engagement sectors. You watch a red flag snapping on a flagpole, and your brain effortlessly calculates a full-value crosswind blowing right to left at 15 kilometers per hour. You cannot turn it off. The software is permanently burned into your hard drive.
You are an alien. You walk among millions of living, breathing people, but you cannot relate to a single one of them. You cannot explain the terrible math that runs behind your eyes. You cannot explain the silence of the ruins. You are a ghost forced to walk in the daylight. A loud, rhythmic thud echoes down the street. You turn your head. A column of fresh recruits is marching down the avenue. They are barely 18. Their heads are shaved. Their uniforms are stiff, clean, and completely ill-fitting. They are marching in perfect unison, their faces glowing with eager, unearned pride. They are carrying iron sight rifles, gripping the wood with soft, uncalloused hands.
You stand on the corner and watch them pass. You look at the kid at the very back of the formation. He's trying desperately to keep in step, his eyes wide and anxious. You look at his boots. You know exactly what -40 degrees will do to the toes inside that cheap leather. You look at his nervous hands. You know exactly how the freezing metal of the receiver will strip the skin from his palms. You look at his eager eyes, and you know exactly how the machine will systematically hollow out his soul, piece by piece, until he is nothing but a cold finger on a curved steel trigger. You know the hell that awaits him, because you built the road he is about to walk. You turn away from the marching column. You pull your collar up against a wind only you can feel, calculate the distance to the end of the street, and step forward into the crowd. Completely invisible, completely alone.